outside the presence of the jury. First, you may have noticed that we switched jurors 737 and 706. That was just for purposes of convenience. So they keep the same seat that they've had all along. But just in terms of their location, it made more sense to have juror 706 on the outside. The second thing is that my staff has placed copies of an amended juror question form on your chairs, or they're giving them to you right now. And the only amendment is that instead of calling it question number, we're calling it question form number. And that's to avoid any ambiguity. Jurors sometimes will include more than one question on the form, and so it should be the form number, not the question number. I made the change by hand to the first two forms, but rather than keep doing that, we just went ahead and amended it. I believe that the contents of the notebook were marked as a court exhibit previously, and so we're going to mark this one as a new court exhibit, and it'll be trial court exhibit 8?
Yes.
Trial court exhibit 8, okay? I had a chance to listen to the two recordings that the prosecution submitted before the lunch break. These are exhibits 1036 and 1024. Did you want to make any additional argument, Ms. Spengler, with respect to your Rule 403 objection?
I want to be clear that I'm relying on the argument that I made earlier this morning and all of the arguments and the case law that I cited and the constitutional provisions I cited.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. And thank you for pressing the button on the microphone. Please try to remember to do that. I know that sometimes it's hard to remember, but to the extent that you can remember, please do that. Ms. Tisch-McGuire, any additional response?
No, Your Honor, I'll incorporate my earlier arguments. Thank you.
On one of these CDs, it sounds like a thump or a thumping sound. Are those the sounds of bullets, shotguns?
Is that on 1024?
I believe it's 1024.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure. I have, as I said, listened to both of the recordings. The probative value of these recordings, in my view, is not substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. Unfair prejudice does not refer to the damage to a defendant's case that results from the legitimate probative force of the evidence. Rather, it refers to evidence which tends to suggest a decision on an improper basis. The 911 recordings that have been submitted, not only the two that I listened to during the lunch break, but also the one that was played earlier, which I admitted, are highly probative of the charges that have been filed in this case and do not suggest a decision on an improper basis. To the contrary, these recordings may well be the best evidence of the shooting or the scene at the theater immediately after the shooting. One of these, number 1024, includes the sound of shotguns. And so it's actually during the shooting, as the shooting is going on, that this 911 call is apparently made. And so that is evidence of the actual shooting. The other two appear to be recordings immediately following the shooting. This evidence does not violate the defendant's presumption of innocence. It merely contributes to a finding of guilt, which is something completely different. Violating the presumption of innocence would obviously be improper. Allowing the prosecution to present evidence of guilt is not. Each of these recordings was made by a different individual, as far as I can tell, because these are calls made by different people. So each of the three was made by a different person. And they appear to have been made from a different location in the theater and with a different perspective of the shooting. Those circumstances, when I consider them in conjunction with the fact that the number of listed victims in this case is 82, lead me to find that these three calls are not cumulative. If we were dealing with a crime that involved one listed victim, it might be a different story if the prosecution was intending to introduce 3 911 calls. But here, given the large number of individuals present at the theater, I find that This is not cumulative. None of this is cumulative of one another. And even if slightly cumulative, this evidence is illustrative and makes the event clearer for the jury. It does what testimony cannot do, at least cannot do as well, and that is it depicts the chaos, the panic, and the commotion during the shooting and immediately after the shooting. And in so doing, it puts the crimes charged in context, and it describes the circumstances surrounding the crimes charged. In making these rulings, of course, I'm considering, among other things, the nature of the case that's involved here. I conclude that these recordings are not particularly shocking in the context of this first-degree murder case. This evidence is prejudicial, but it's not unduly or unfairly prejudicial, and the probative value of this evidence is not substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. Therefore, the objection under Rule 403 is overruled. With that, let's bring the jury in, please.
Your Honor,
Yes.
yeah, just a brief record, I apologize. One, I don't think the court means this in any way, but we just would like to rifle rounds, not shotgun rounds.
Okay.
911 party.
Thank you.
And two, Your Honor, we would, with the court's permission, like our next witness to be able to and talk to the jury about where he was in the theater between that. I just wondered if the court would allow that, one, and two.
We can provide a wireless microphone, the one that we've used in the past with prospective jurors when we were still selecting a jury. And then the defense can move. Obviously, I want to make sure that you're able to see that. I myself may move so that I'm able to see where the witness is pointing. So Ms. Brady or Mr. King or Ms. Spengler, I don't know who, or whoever has this witness who is going to be standing by the model, you can move to a place where you can see where the witness is pointing to. Anything else, Ms. Tish McGuire?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, here are the discs. Thank you. Okay, let's bring him in, please. Okay, please be seated. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Welcome back, folks. Did you have a good lunch? Yes. Good. All right. I'm glad. Okay, when we stopped before the lunch break, the prosecution was still in the middle of its case, and so Ms. Tish McGuire, at this time, you may call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Prodeo Patria.
Good afternoon. It's good afternoon, I think. That's okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Yeah, Prodeo et Patria, first name Prodeo, middle name Et, last name Patria.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell the jury how old you are?
17.
On July 19th and July 20th of 2012, how old were you?
2012. Around 14 years old.
Now, on July 19th, 2012, do you remember if you recall going to the Century 16 movie theater in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
What were you going to that movie theater to do?
To watch the premiere of Dark Knight Rises.
And who were you going with?
I was planning to go with my parents, my mother and father.
Who are your parents?
Angiat Mora and Rita Polina.
Could you please spell those names for the record?
Yeah, Angiat Mora, Anggiatmora, Rita Polina, Ritapaulina.
When did you decide to go to the movies?
I was excited to watch the new Dark Knight movie.
And who bought the tickets for you?
My father.
Do you recall when your father bought the tickets that day?
My father and I went to buy the tickets earlier that day, on Thursday.
And what time did you go to the movie theater that night?
Around 12 o'clock.
What did you do when you got to the theater?
When we first got to theater, we bought popcorn and soda, and we sat down to watch some previews.
Do you recall where you sat in the middle of the movie theater?
In general, we sat around in the middle section of the theater.
How'd you pick your seats?
We felt it would be better if we sat farther back because most of the seats were taken, and we felt like we could see the screen a bit better.
What'd you do while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
My dad was sleeping, and I was just watching the previews.
Do you recall what number of movie theater you went into that night?
9.
And do you remember if there were previews before the movie started?
Yes.
And do you know at some point in time if your movie actually started?
Yes.
What happened during your movie?
From what I remember watching the intro scene with Catwoman and some scene with Alfred, and that's the last thing I remember.
What happened after that scene that made you stop remembering the rest of the movie?
So I saw from the peripheral of my eye in the right corner red and yellow flashes. Originally I thought it was just a joke and I focused back on the movie. But soon after that there was something that flew from the right corner towards to my closer left. And then my father told me that this scenario was actually real and dangerous, and he told me to get down.
Did you listen to your father's advice?
Yes.
And how'd you get down?
My mother and father and I, we both went flat on our stomachs on the ground, under the seats.
Were you able to observe anything else before you went down to the ground?
No.
And do you remember hearing anything when you got down on the ground?
Yes, I heard loud bangs. From that time, I couldn't really tell what they were.
And what else do you remember at that time?
I remember coughing because from that point on, I figured what the thing that flew across was sort of a container holding gas. And I remember the person in front of me, who was also laying flat on the ground, he started spazzing and kicked my head, and my glasses flew off my face.
What happened after that?
After that, I forget how much time after that, but my father told me to, now it's time to run. So I got up and started going towards my right and going down the stairs. And I initially planned to go out the original entrance, but my mother told me that there was someone in front of us. So I made a U-turn and ran towards the right exit. And that's when I first felt a gunfire hit me. A gunshot hit me.
And what happened when you felt that? What did you feel?
I just felt something hit me in my lower left back, but I kept running. And once we hit the exit, we met with another group of people. I couldn't tell how many until we opened the door, and I found that it was another couple. Yes.
And what happened when you got to that door and saw the other couple?
I saw that the man was injured and he needed help, so his female friend was on one side and I was on the other side, and we helped him walk through. And after we set him down in the corner, I looked back to find that my mother was on my father's back with a lot of blood on her body.
And what do you remember after seeing your mother on your dad's back?
I remember my dad quickly shutting the door, and then I went back to placed my mom down on the sidewalk, and then we sat there.
What did you observe when you got out to the sidewalk?
I saw flashing lights from the streets, and I guess those were ambulance and police cars, and I heard many sirens as well.
And what happened to you when you got out on that sidewalk?
I told my dad that I think I got shot too, and he saw my back.
And what do you recall happening after you saw that your back?
After that, he began calling my family and friends to tell them what happened that night.
And were you in any pain?
No.
And what was happening with your mother at the time? What did you
She
observe?
was drowsy, so she just sat down, and we waited until the police came or to pick us up, or an ambulance or anything.
Were you able to determine if your father was also hurt at that time?
From what I saw, he looked fine.
And how long was it while you had to wait for the police officers?
I do not know.
And were you eventually transported to another location?
Yes.
Now, before we leave the scene of the theater, I would like at this time, Your Honor, to ask if it would be the court's permission to have this witness approach this model of a diagram to describe for the jury where he was in the theater.
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach him with a microphone, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thanks.
And Ms. Spengler, is this your witness? If you want to move, feel free to move around, okay?
And then you can kind of clip this to your pocket. When you talk to them, okay? Okay, thanks. Is that good? All right. All right. This is a model of the theater. Does this fairly and accurately represent to you what the movie theater looked like on July 19th and to July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Okay. Could you first show for the jury where you entered the theater?
So we entered the theater from, I guess you can, so from, if you were to go under here, there would be a double door entrance, and that's, we went over here, and we started to find seats around this area.
Okay, and could you use your laser pointer to kind of show them where your seats were in that area?
Somewhere around here.
Okay. And can you kind of describe for them where you were crouching down when you heard the gunfire?
So,
Right there. And earlier you had described for the jury that you saw something kind of fly across the theater. Could you use a laser pointer to describe where that flew across from?
so I saw the sort of thing that flew across, beginning from my far right, and it ended somewhere closer to my left in a diagonal kind of direction.
And earlier you had described that you saw some flashes of light. What area did you see those flashes of light in?
So I saw the flashes of light at the same origin where I saw the thing that flew by, which was somewhere on my far right.
Right. And then could you describe for the jury your exit path, about how you were trying to exit the theater and where you were attempting to go?
So I, after my dad said to get up, I ran towards my right. I went down the stairs, and I was initially trying to go back to my to the original entrance, but I saw sort of like a still silhouette, and my mom told me that that was not a good way. So I made a quick U-turn and started heading out towards that exit.
Could you point for the jury where you were when you felt yourself get shot?
Right before I reached that exit, somewhere around there.
All right. And then could you show the jury where you ran into that other couple, where you were when you ran into that other couple?
Inside that sort of a corner before the exit doors.
And where was it that you saw your mother on your dad's back?
So once we left the exit doors and we were outside, I first helped the man into the sidewalk corner over here, and then that's when I finally saw my mom on my dad's back, when I looked back.
Now, when you walked outside the theater, did you ever notice a white car?
Yes.
Okay, and where did you notice the white car?
Where you put it?
And could you just show the jury where that is?
Right in the parking lot in front of us.
All right, and could you also describe for the jury, as you were exiting, how close were you to the wall when you were exiting the theater?
We stayed pretty close to it because we didn't want her far off from the sidewalk. So it was close enough to it so I could set my mom down to lay back on it.
And when you were inside the theater, after you had kind of turned from that one lobby area, how close were you to the wall in there, if you could show the jury on that diagram?
We're pretty close. We're running right alongside it in a linear line. Myself first, my mother, then my father in the back.
And I just have a moment, Your Honor. All right. Okay, I don't have any further questions for you at this time with the diagram. Thank you very much. You can have a seat back on the witness stand. Your Honor, may I approach this witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 4613 and 4614?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
What are those photographs?
They are, one of them is a picture of me after the surgery I had to remove the shrapnel from my left side, and the other one was also after the surgery, but that's when it healed up a little bit.
And do those pictures fairly and accurately represent your injuries after the July 20th, 2012 shooting?
Yes, without the picture of the back where it initially entered.
So you had an additional injury in addition to the ones that are in those photographs?
This was the surgery, not the injury.
But other than that, they fairly and accurately represent your surgery? And at this time, I would move for the admission of those exhibits.
Any objection? Without objection, People's Exhibits 4613 and 4614 are admitted and may be published.
All right, and could you please describe for the jury what we're seeing in this photograph?
So, the shrapnel entered from my lower left back, and it lodged itself in some fat on my left, and and then about a month after the shooting, doctors decided to do a surgery and to remove the shrapnel from my left, and this is the aftermath because they couldn't close it up because it was initially infected, and they said it would be better if we left it open.
Now, how many surgeries did you have to have?
Just one.
Okay. And what was that surgery for?
To remove the shrapnel.
And how long were you in the hospital?
For less than 12 hours.
And what hospital were you taken to?
The Denver hospital.
And were other members of your family at that hospital as well?
Yes.
Who else was at that hospital?
At that night, initially my mother, until she was transferred to a different hospital. And my dad was also there.
And what injuries did your dad sustain?
Initially, he only had some issues with his eye. He felt there was something inside it. And my mother, she was hit both on her left arm and leg.
Judge, excuse me, I'd ask that the exhibit, if it's not be used anymore, be taken down.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
We'll remove it. Now, you said you were left on the sidewalk of the theater, so that's kind of where we left off before. So take us back to what happened when you were on the sidewalk of the theater. How eventually did you get to leave the theater that night?
So there was some policemen that came, and we asked them if there was going to be an ambulance, but they said there wasn't enough room for the ambulance, so instead they brought us inside a police car, and they drove us to the hospital.
Do you remember anything about that ride to the hospital?
Yes, all three of us were in it, and there was another person in front of us, and it was a pretty rapid ride down the highway.
What happened when you got to the hospital?
They put my mother in a wheelchair, and they put me in a gurney.
Can you speak closer to the
Oh, sorry.
microphone, please?
They put my
And-
mother. Oh.
Go ahead, repeat the last answer.
So once we reached the hospital, they put my mother on a wheelchair and then on a gurney, and I was just placed on a gurney.
And what did they do with you after you were placed on the gurney?
They separated my mother and I because we had sort of different injuries. My dad tried to keep us together, but failed. So they put me sort of.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second. What do you mean by that? Your dad tried to keep you together, but he failed.
Overruled?
Okay. So the reason why he tried to keep us together because he didn't want to lose track of us because the hospital itself was pretty crowded and chaotic.
So were you separated within that hospital, or were you actually separated to different hospitals?
We were separated in that hospital, and then a couple hours later, they transferred my mother into a different hospital.
So your family members were at different hospitals that night?
Yes. My mother was with my mother. My father was with my mother the whole time, though.
So you were left by yourself at age 14?
Sustained.
Yeah.
I'll move on. Your Honor. Sorry, that means you can't answer the question. Okay. So after you were at the hospital, what did the hospital do for you?
So they first gave me a sort of a X-ray, and they gave me some medication for the pain, I guess, to ensure I wasn't feeling any.
After they give you pain medication, what did they need to do?
And then they scanned me, and then they placed me sort of out in the hallway, and waited for a room to be open for me to put me in.
And when did they decide you were going to have surgery?
They asked me to have surgery, but my family decided that I was okay to leave the shrapnel in there.
So did you have surgery at that time?
No.
And how long were you in the hospital for?
1 or 2 days.
And where'd you go after you were released?
Because my mother was still at the hospital, my dad had stayed there, so I was dropped off at a family friend's house.
And how long did it take you to recover for your injuries?
The wound didn't really completely heal, but about a week I felt a lot better.
At any point in time, did you have to have surgery for your injuries?
Yeah, the month afterwards when I decided to finally take out the shrapnel.
Where did you have that surgery?
Sustained.
And did you have an opportunity to learn what sort of injuries your mother had sustained? And did you actually observe your mother's injuries?
Yes, I found out that she had bones broken on both her arm and leg, and they needed to do surgery and place metallic bars in them.
I have no further questions this time. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Spengler, do you have any questions?
But if I may just have a moment.
Yes.
That's all.
All right. There appears to be a question from the jury, so hold on for just a minute, please. Thank you. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Sir, the jury has submitted some questions that I have found based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law are appropriate, and so I'm going to ask those questions now. The first question is as follows. The witness was shot leaving the theater. Had the theater lights been turned on at that point? And then there's a comment that follows that reads as follows. Unsure when the lights went on and shooting ended.
The lights were not on when I got shot in the theater.
The next question is as follows. Where was the shooter standing when he was shot?
So so as I previously said, when I went down the aisle, down the stairs and tried to go back to the entrance, the shooter was sort of in the corner where you need to turn to make the to go to the entrance, and that's why I turned around and went to the right exit.
And then the last question is, had the shooter exited the building before him?
Before who?
Before you?
No, not that I believe.
All right, any follow-up questions based on those questions and answers? Ms. Ditch McGuire?
Your Honor, I would ask the court's permission for him to approach the model and show where you believe the shooter was when he was shot.
All right, Ms. Spengler, you may feel free to move. I noticed that too. I leave it to the attorneys to do those things. And so if you want to make a record, then you need to verbalize where the witness is pointing to. And same thing if somebody makes a gesture with their hand and says, somebody was here. You got to make the record as to where the witness is pointing if that's important to you and if you think the record needs to reflect that. So, all right, with that advisement, I'll allow you, sir, to go down to the model, and then Ms. Ditch McGuire, I'm assuming you'll describe where he's pointing?
Yes, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I guess I'll take the microphone with me so I can do
Okay,
that. Thank you.
That's fine, that might be easier. And I'm going to step down too, and Ms. Spengler, you may move as well.
All right, and okay, you have your laser pointer, great. If you could maybe stand on the side so the jury could still see you, could you point with your laser pointer where you saw the shooter when you were trying to exit the theater?
So the shooter was under that, under these seats. Oh, sorry.
You need to pull it back.
Okay. Now they can't see. All right, maybe can we do it twice? Can we show, is that okay, Your Honor?
That's fine.
Okay, so at this side, can you see over there? Okay. So if you could show them where the shooter was standing when you were trying to exit.
So I was trying to exit initially this way, and the shooter was standing at the end of that sort of alley way.
And Your Honor, if the record could reflect that this witness has used a laser pointer to point under a hallway that goes back to the lobby of the theater that's on the right side of the theater if you were facing the movie theater screen. Okay. And I'm going to ask you the same question and turn this for our other jurors. Now, can you see up there? Okay. Now, if you could please show this part of the jury on the diagram where you were in the theater when you were trying to exit, or where you saw the shooter when you were trying to exit the theater. Okay? And there would the record reflect that, again, the witness has demonstrated with the laser pointer that he saw the shooter under the hallway that leads back to the lobby of the main theater. And that, again, is on the right side of the theater if you're facing the movie theater screen. All right? Now, could you please show for the jury exactly your exit path as close to that wall as possible with a laser pointer?
And then U-turn and staying close to the wall.
Oh, sorry.
I can't speak loud on this.
Here you go.
No. Okay. So I went to the right, went down the stairs, again tried to go down to the alleyway, made a quick U-turn and stayed close to the wall and going towards that right exit.
Right. Could the whole jury see that this time? Okay, thank you. And will the record reflect that this witness used the laser pointer to point very close to the wall that, again, is the right wall if you're looking at the movie theater screen, out towards the exit door that leads to outside the theater?
Ms. Tischmeier, some of the jurors are indicating that they could not see that, so you'll have to turn it the other way again.
All right, so if you could please show your exit path again for the jury when you were leaving your seat. Was able to see that time. And again, if the record could reflect that he uses laser pointer to point from his seats, which were in the middle of the theater, he went down the right staircase of the stadium seating, indicated that he tried to go towards back to the main lobby area under that hallway, and then stayed very close to the wall and went out the exit door that leads to the back of the theater.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Spengler, do you have any follow-up questions based on the jurors' questions and the witnesses' answers to those questions?
I do not.
Okay, great. May he be released from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Any objection? No. All right, thank you, sir. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, people call Angiat Mora.
And do we have an interpreter present?
We do, Your Honor.
Okay, let me give the interpreter, administer an oath first. And what language is this?
Indonesian.
Indonesian? Okay. And what's your name, sir?
Stanley Powell.
Can you spell your last name?
P-O-U-W.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that you will accurately, impartially, and to the best of your ability translate from English into Indonesian the oath that is administered and the questions asked of this witness, and will accurately translate from Indonesian back to English the answers given?
I do.
All right. Now let me administer an oath to the witness. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, since they asked me just to back it up, in other words, if the witness himself could explain it in English properly, then I would not say anything. If he gets into trouble, then I was asked to help.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone? He just wants to be a standby.
That's the people's preference, Your Honor.
Ms. Spengler, any objection? No. Okay. All right. In that case, sir, let me have you raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right. Please be seated. All right, sir, could you please tell us your full name?
My name is Ngiat Mora, Anggiat, last name Mora, Mora.
And my understanding is that you speak and understand English, is that correct?
Yes,
All right, if at any point you need the assistance of the interpreter, would you please let us know?
sure.
Okay, great. Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you remember being at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012?
Yes, I remember.
Did that go on to the early morning of July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Why did you decide to go to the movies?
Actually, that's for family time for us.
So the movies were something you did as a family together.
Yes.
And what movie were you going to see that night?
Batman movie.
Who are you bringing with you?
My son's Prodeo and my wife Frida.
And when did you get the tickets for the movie that night?
Me and my son buy the ticket early that day on Thursday around 11 o'clock in the morning.
What time did you decide to go to the movie theater that night?
That movie I think is around midnight. So we going in there, but we doesn't have the first theater. So they give it as theater 9. So we going to theater 9.
And do you recall what time you got to the movie theater that night?
We arrived on theater that night is around 11 o'clock, something like that.
What happened when you got to the theater? Did you go inside and buy any concessions, or what'd you do?
Could you repeat again, please?
Sure. What'd you do when you got, after you parked, what'd you do when you walked into the movie theater?
So I thought when we going to the theater, usually there's a take long line like that, but when we going in there is nobody in there. So we just going to theater 9, but it's already crowded inside theater 9. So we kind of looking around, and then finally we ask someone to move little bit so we can sit together.
Were you able to sit together?
Yes.
Where did you get some seats?
Say again, ma'am.
Where did you find your seats in the theater? Wow, where were they located?
It's around in the middle of the theater 9.
What did you do while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
There's a lot of thing in there. It's funny, people joking around, laughing. A lot of costume, weird costume, something like that.
And when you say weird costumes, what do you mean by that?
Like Catwoman, and then some people wearing the mask of Batman.
And at some point in time, do you remember if there were previews that began before the movie?
I'm not really giving attention. I think that time I'm asleep.
Now, what kind of shifts do you work at night, or work at work normally?
I'm sorry. Actually, I'm working double, so I feel so tired. But because this is a movie for my son, superhero, I'm always going with my family to watch that.
Now, at some point in time, did the movie begin? Did the Batman movie begin?
I think they're starting 12:05.
Now, were you still sleeping at 12:05, or were you awake at 12:05?
I'm not sleep all the time, ma'am. I mean, sometimes my son is dead, refill my popcorn, blah, 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 and then, or, you know, they try to get me attention to wake me up.
So did you actually become awakened ever before the movie started?
Yeah. But I'm sure, I don't know. The movie start, I don't know.
You remember seeing any of the Batman movie actually on the screen? Were you awake for that when the Batman movie started? No.
No.
So what's the first thing that you remember happening?
I just remember several times refill the popcorn, and then refill the Coke, go to the bathroom, and then one person, one couple on the right side, my son he sleep too. He sleep all the time. So kind of excuse me to get the line to pass by like that.
Then did the Batman movie start?
Say again?
Did the Batman movie actually come up on the screen? Did you get to start watching the movie?
Yeah, I know that from the light when it's getting dark, so that's mean movie will start.
Do you remember what scene was happening in the Batman movie? Do you remember?
I don't know. I'm serious. I don't know. The Batman is starting what beginning. I don't know. I'm not giving attention for that.
Okay. And then did something ever happen when the movie was playing?
Yeah, I just know something flew terbang flew from my far right to left my side with the sound like that, and then end up to the wall and to the floor.
Your Honor, and if the record could reflect that the witness just made like a shushing sound.
Okay.
All right. And what did you remember after you saw that thing fly across the screen?
Some people clapping, some people laughing. So I thought this is entertain from the Batman movie.
And what do you remember after that?
So after that, I saw from the beginning the flu. There's one person in there facing us, and then starting what do you call that? Sound bang 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 bang. But on the second, I don't know what is that, until someone screaming, "I got shot," is so loud. And then I feel this is a real. So I'm asked my wife and my son to get down to the floor. When we get down to the floor, we cannot breathe because the smoke, I believe, is coming from the flying to our left side.
And could you smell anything at the time?
Yeah, smell. I just feel choking, and then eyes is burning, something like that.
What do you remember after having after having difficulty breathing?
So I know that there's a real gun. That's why, according to someone screaming, people crowded, running around. So, and then the sound of gun is different too. Sometimes it's a 10-second stop like that. Sometimes it's a beginning shooting again. So at that point, I make decision us to my family run when they'll stop a while.
And did you tell your family they needed to run? Or did you
Yes.
just, yes.
I'm asked them to run.
And did they listen to you?
Yeah, because on my right side is my wife and then my son. So he's the lead us to run. He cannot go through because is someone on his right side. So I said, jump to the back. So we jump to the back and then run to our right side, to the wall.
Just so that we can understand what you're talking about, when you say jump to the back, did you actually jump over the movie theater seats to the row behind you? Is that what you
Yes,
did?
with stepping to the seat.
And what happened after you stepped over the seats to the back row? Where did you go from there?
of course, to the wall, and then make a left, and then another hole in there. So we almost separate because my son and my wife to the left, and then I'm thinking at that time is why is my son going to the guy standing up? So I'm almost going to the right side too because that's a wrong way. That's how I'm thinking. But actually, well, if we die together, so I'm just following them to the left side.
So did you actually see anybody down that hallway when you went down that way?
You mean to see people?
Yeah, when you looked down that hallway and you saw your son and your wife, did you see anyone else down there?
There's a dark and smoke, ma'am. So actually, I just heard people screaming, crying, and everything. But about the people running away close to us, I don't know. I'm not remember.
So how did you actually get out of the theater?
So it's like I said before, my son lead to our running to our right side to the wall, and then with the wall we touching through the sign of green exit on the front from the theater on the right side.
What happened when you started to see that exit sign?
So we met with a couple in there, people. We are confusing. This is the exit door, but we doesn't know where is the door because it's too dark. So kind of nervous too. I said, open the door, I said. And then finally they can open the door, and then my wife is on the floor already. She said, I got shot. She said like that.
And you could see that your wife was on the floor at that point in time. And where on the floor was your wife?
Still inside the building. I mean, close to the exit door. So I just pull her. I'm just thinking maybe after I'm pulling her out of the door is safe. But I could. So I'm asking her, would you able to just standing up a little bit so I can carry you? Finally, I can carry her through that door, from that door, I mean, to go outside. It's about 30 feet, I mean, I don't know.
So if you were going to estimate from a space in this room, from about where you're sitting, where in this room would you say it was about?
More than that door.
More than that.
More than that door. I carry my wife from my behind door. Carry her.
So when you pointed to your back, is that
I'm
right?
carry from my back. So this is the first time I'm carrying my wife. I feel, why is so heavy? I said, so I'm out of breath at that time. So I'm sorry. It's not too far.
Okay. And what happens when you carry your wife out? Are you able to carry her the whole time?
No. Finally, I'm out of breath, and then I set her on the back of the theater. And then my son, of course, in the front of us with a couple in there. And then he said to me, Dad, I got shot too. So I'm so panicked about that. Why he?
I just want to stop you for a second. Is this your son who tells you he's got shot in this point?
Yeah, my son got dead. I got shot. He said like that.
Okay, sorry. Now you can continue.
So I'm just thinking. I'm panicked at that time because I thought it's only my wife. It's my son too. So I carry him close to his mom, sitting together in there, and then I'm trying to make them, calm down. Watch your mom, and then I make a phone call to my friend, to my family, and then I saw blue, white, and red light from far away, and then I believe there's at least police or ambulance, like something like that, just to make them happy. So I giving this information to my son, to my wife.
To tell her that there's help on the way.
Yeah.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1147?
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is a diagram of the movie Theater 9.
And do you recognize the handwriting on that document?
Yes,
Whose handwriting is it?
myself.
Okay. And did you document on there where you were seated in the theater and your exit path and things that you noticed in the theater?
Yes,
Does it fairly and accurately represent what you believe to be your position in the theater at that night on July 20th of 2012?
I'm not sure are we sitting in there or no, but approximately around the circle.
So to the best of your memory,
Yes.
that's where you believe that that represented where you were that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of that exhibit.
All right, any objection to the admission of 1147?
No.
All right, thank you. Without objection, Exhibit 1147 is admitted and may be published.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness to point out his laser pen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you could use that laser pen and use it on that screen right there to show the jury where you were seated.
So this is approximately we are sitting here, but I'm not sure this is the good row for the real row we are sitting.
All right, and then could you show for the jury where you believe that canister to fly across from the screen?
I saw someone throw apa benda?
Thing.
I throw thing from here through my left side to the wall and then fell to the floor.
You saw the thing fall to the floor.
Yes.
And then at any point in time, did you ever notice any particular, anything else that you noticed from the front of the movie theater screen? Any flashes or?
Sir, can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sure.
Make sure the jury can hear you. Thank you.
At that time, it's only that thing flew to the floor, and then just a sound like a whiz like that. And
Right.
then couple of seconds is starting a gunshot.
Okay. And could you show for the jury on that diagram where your exit path was?
The exit path is my son is bring us to his right side, jumping to one row to on the back, and then to the I believe this is wall, stair wall, and then going down, make a right. So this is after I saw my son and my wife to the left, there's a wrong path. I thinking like that. So I want to run to the right side, but I cancel. So we going together to the left through this exit door.
Can everybody see that dot? No? Not at all? Okay. The jurors are having a hard time. Some of the jurors are having a hard time seeing that dot.
Yeah, it's something to do with the LED screen of the television. I apologize about that. We'll try to get a old school physical pointer for the rest of the trial for you guys. Sorry about that.
I think the red is better. The red one, no. No, same.
All right, well, I guess we'll continue to use the green since some of you can see the green, and then we'll try to get an old school pointer for the rest of the trial.
I can try to dim the lights and see if that helps. You
Oh,
want me to
thanks,
do
Your
that?
Honor. Thanks.
Let's see. We'll try this. All right, try that now. See if it works any better.
And the green one's a better one to use, not the red one.
Okay.
I don't know if that helped the jury at
Can
all.
people see that? No? Still no? Okay.
All right. Okay, and so then, and then you go out through that exit door,
Yes.
that's towards the top of the diagram.
Yeah.
And where is it that your wife collapses when you're at that point?
So
Well, hold on. Ms. Tish McGuire, if you're going to have them using that, the jurors need to be able to see it, and all of them need to be able to see it. So either he uses something that everybody sees, or he shouldn't be using it at all.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. All right, I'll ask you to not use the laser pointer. And we'll just go ahead and have you describe. So on that diagram, at the top of the diagram, is there like a little box that goes out towards the right if you're staring at the movie theater screen? And if you could stop using that, it's not you, the jury can't
Okay.
see it, so thank you. That box that's at the top of the, do you see like a box that protrudes from the diagram on the right
yeah,
side?
on the right side, in the front right.
The front right, and you have some blue writing there. Is that the location where your wife collapsed?
Yes, before the exit door.
Okay, and is that the exit door that you went out of to go
Yes.
behind the theater with your wife? All right, so then you are outside on this sidewalk behind the theater with your wife and your son against the wall, and you had told the jury that you were telling them that help was on the way. So how was it that you were finally transported to, or were you transported to any medical facilities?
The first come is not car or ambulance. The first time is came is a police officer. The first time is a male is pointing gun to us. Do not move. Raise your hand like that. So we are scared too. And then after a while, is a female police officer came, and then they calling. Finally, a police car came, and then they asking, "Are you able to go to inside the car?" So I said yes, and then I'm carry my wife to inside the police car, and then inside the police car, I remember is a one female sitting in the front of police car.
And is your family able to go together in this police
Yes,
car?
on the back.
And where do they take you?
At that time, I don't know where.
Did they take you to a hospital?
Yes, to University Hospital.
What happened when you got to University Hospital?
They're rushing us through the wheelchair or gurney bed, and then we go to inside the emergency room. Everybody panic in there because before us is a lot of people already in there, so they leave it us in the hall of emergency room.
And are you able to observe your wife's injuries at this point?
Yeah.
What can you see at that point in time?
The injury, you mean? Yeah, I saw injury on the left arm and then left leg.
Were you able to observe your son's injuries at that point?
Yes, on the left lower back.
And did you have any injuries at that point in time?
I don't feel anything at that time. I just concentrate to my family, not missing each other. I begging to everyone in there to make them close together, because if I'm stay with my son, my wife cannot speak English very well, so my concentrate is divided like that. So I just try to pulling the bed so they can put together like that.
Were you able to keep your family together at that hospital?
Sustained.
With John? At some point in time, did you realize that you had an injury?
I think the the nurse, one of the nurse in the university hospital is show my eyes, my left eyes, something wrong with my eyes, but I'm refused to get treatment at that time.
So what do you eventually have to do about your eye?
Ya akhirnya harus diapain? Matamu diapain?
In the university hospital, I don't get anything until they ask me to sign something if I'm refused to get treatment. So finally, after I know they don't do my wife and my son anything, so I got treatment quickly like that, the x-ray or something.
Did they do anything to your eye at the time?
No, just the x-ray, I mean.
Did they tell you if there was anything wrong with your eye?
Yeah, something, several thing inside my eyes, that's all.
Now, was your wife eventually treated at the hospital?
Yes,
And what about your son?
yes, they bring to room for maybe CT scan or X-ray or something. I don't know. I cannot following to that room. I just waiting outside.
And did both your family members stay at the same hospital or did they get transferred?
Sustained, and it's cumulative.
At some point in time, were you able to observe your son's injuries?
Melihat luka anakmu.
Yeah, I
What
can
is-
see that.
And what did you observe at the hospital?
Sustained.
And did your wife have to have surgery?
Yes, after they transfer to Denver Hospital, Denver Health Hospital.
And what kind of surgeries did she have to have?
The doctor in emergency room said is
Sustained.
For purposes of medical treatment or diagnosis, Your Honor?
Sustained.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness of what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2559 and 2962?
Yes.
All right, could you please look at the document that's been marked as 2559?
yes.
Okay, do you recognize what that is?
This is a picture myself.
All right, and what does it document?
It's only picture myself with my uniform from my job, a lot of blood, and then I'm carry my wife purse.
Is that a picture that was taken on July 20th of 2012, after the shooting?
Yes, but I don't know who's taking this picture.
But does it fairly and accurately represent what you looked like on July 20th?
Yes,
of
this is
2012?
me.
Okay. And then for photograph marked 2962, what is that a photograph of?
This is a photograph to see my left eyes is hurt.
Right. And does that fairly and accurately represent what your eye looked like after the shooting on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2559 and 2962.
Any objection? No. Without objection, 2559 and 2962 are admitted and may be published.
Thanks. And if I could first have Exhibit 2559, please. All right, could you please show for the jury what this, describe for the jury what this photograph is?
This is a picture myself in the university hospital after they rushing us with the police car, and then
And can you tell the jury what's on your clothing?
yeah, in my clothing is full of blood in my pants and shoe. I believe this is coming from from my wife when I'm carry her, including her purse is a lot of blood too in there.
And then if I could please have Exhibit 2962. All right, and if you could please describe for the jury what this photograph's showing.
This is my photo through to show my left eyes is burning, hurting from the theater.
I have no further questions at this time. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions, Ms. Spengler?
I do not.
Okay. We'll give the jury a moment. Sir, the jury has submitted a question which I have found, based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law, is appropriate. The question is, where was the shooter when you exited the theater?
Actually, I've never see the shooter where they are standing up.
Okay, any follow-up questions, Mr. McGuire?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions, Ms. Spengler? All right, thank you, sir. May he be released from his subpoena, Mr. McGuire?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Any objection? All right, thank you. Call your next witness, please.
People call Rita Polina, Your Honor.
Does she need an interpreter, Mr. McGuire?
Yes, Your Honor.
She does. All right, and for the record, it's the same interpreter who was assisting with the last witness, and so I'm going to ask him to translate the oath that I'm about to administer to this witness. Do you solemnly swear? Could you please raise your right hand? Solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, thank you. Please be seated. It's my understanding that you would like the assistance of the interpreter. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask you to answer in Indonesian, okay, and have him translate for you.
Okay.
Can you translate what I just said, please, sir?
Jadi Anda jawab dalam bahasa Indonesia, terus saya terjemahkan bagi Anda.
Okay. Yeah.
Do I need a microphone or not?
We should give him a microphone. Could you please tell us your name?
Kasih tahu namamu.
Rita Paulina.
Rita Paulina.
The way I want this to go is that I want you to wait until the question is asked and wait till the interpreter has translated the question to Indonesian. Even if you understand the question in English, you should wait until the translation, and then once he has translated the question, I want you to answer the question in Indonesian, and then he will provide the answer in English.
Jadi Anda tunggu sampai pertanyaan ini ditanya, lalu saya menerjemahkannya, dan juga setelah Anda selesai dan memberi jawaban, tunggu dulu sampai saya selesai dalam menerjemahkannya juga.
Ya.
Yes.
Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first name and last name?
Kasih tahu nama Anda dan eja namamu, ya, nama pertama dan nama akhir.
Nama saya Rita Paulina. Spell Rita and last name Paulina.
My name is Rita Paulina, Rita Paulina.
Thank you. Please remember to answer in Indonesian and let him interpret for you, okay?
Jawab
Mr.
bahasa
Maguire, you
Indonesia
may
aja.
proceed.
Ya.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012?
Apakah Anda berada di theater tanggal 19 Juni 2012?
Ya.
Yes.
Did that go into the early morning hours of July 20th of 2012?
Apakah itu mulai juga hari pagi sekali dari Juni 20?
Ya.
Yes.
Who did you go to the movies with?
Anda pergi bersama siapa?
Sama suami dan anak.
With my husband and son.
What's your son's name?
Anakmu namanya siapa?
Rodeo et Patria.
Rodeo
Et Patria.
Espatia.
And what is your husband's name?
Nama suamimu?
Anggiat Mora.
Anggiat Mora.
What movie were you going to see?
Apa movie-nya?
Batman.
Batman.
Do you know what time you went to the movie that night?
Tahu nggak jam berapa Anda pergi ke bioskop itu?
10.30.
At 10:30.
What did you do when you got to the movie theater?
Apa yang Anda lakukan pada waktu tiba di sana?
Masuk ke dalam, duduk, dan lihat-lihat.
We went inside, we sat around and looked around.
And at some point in time, did the movie begin?
Pada suatu waktu itu mulai movie-nya.
Jam 12.05.
At 12:05.
And what happened when you were watching your movie?
Apa yang terjadi pada waktu itu?
Asik nonton aja.
We were just looking at the previews and then the movie.
And did something unusual happen during your movie?
Ada sesuatu yang luar biasa yang terjadi pada waktu itu.
Ya, kayak kembang api dari ujung sana ke tengah.
It looked like fireworks that went from one corner to our left back.
What happened after you thought that there were fireworks going across the theater?
Apa yang terjadi sesudah kelihatannya ada kembang api itu?
Ya serius, nggak mau perhatikan itu, nonton aja.
In the beginning, we didn't think it was serious, so we just looked back at the movie.
All right, and then after you look back at the movie, what do you remember happening after that?
Terus sesudah itu apa yang terjadi?
Setelah suami saya bilang kalau itu tembakan beneran, ada penembak.
But my husband said, that is a real shot, those are real shooting.
And what happened after your husband told you that?
Sesudah itu apa yang dia katakan?
Dia suruh saya tengkurap di bawah sama anak saya.
He told us to really lay down underneath the seat.
Tapi saya sama anak saya nggak mau nurut.
But in the beginning, we didn't want to follow his advice.
Why didn't you want to follow your husband's advice?
Kenapa tidak mau mengikuti?
Nah, lagi serius nonton.
Because we were watching the movie.
So it's a good movie until then.
Pada waktu itu masih bagus ya movie.
Saya lagi nunggu Batman datang tapi nggak datang-datang.
I was waiting for Batman, but he didn't come.
So what happened after you know, your husband said that to you?
Jadi apa yang terjadi sesudah Anda dipaksa?
Setelah 3 kali paksa, saya nurut. Saya tarik anak saya jongkok di bawah.
After he said it 3 times, I followed his advice and we all lay down.
And what did you notice as you were going down to the ground? Did you observe anything around you happening in the theater?
Apakah yang Anda perhatikan pada waktu tengkurup itu di bawah?
Berisik, suara tembakan, mata pedas, batuk-batuk.
There's a lot of noise, there's sound of gunshots, there was smoke, and we started coughing.
Right? And what, could you see anything when you were down on the ground?
Apakah Anda bisa lihat sesuatu pada waktu tengkurup?
Enggak.
No.
And what else do you remember when you were down on the ground?
Apalagi yang diingat pada waktu itu?
Saya tinggal nunggu aba-aba dari suami saya aja.
I was just waiting what my husband would tell me to do.
Right? And do you recall hearing anything else while you were down on the ground?
Pada waktu itu masih mendengar sesuatu yang lain.
Ya, dengar orang teriak-teriak, tapi saya nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain.
I heard people yelling, but I wasn't able to do anything.
Did you observe anything about the people that were sitting next to you while you were on the ground?
Apakah Anda melihat apa yang orang di sebelahmu melakukan?
Enggak.
No.
Do you recall ever seeing somebody next to your son do anything?
Apakah Anda lihat seseorang yang di sebelah anakmu melakukan sesuatu?
Saya tahunya dia udah tengkurap sampai anak saya.
All I saw was that that person also lay down next to my son.
And then what happened? What did your husband tell you to do next?
Apalagi yang suami Anda mengatakan?
Kalau saya suruh lari, lari katanya.
He said, if I tell you to run, run.
And at some point in time, did your husband tell you to run?
Dan pada suatu waktu dia mengatakan lari.
Ya, lari bersama-sama.
Yes, we ran together.
Right? And how did you run?
Bagaimana Anda berlari?
Anak saya lari loncat kursi ke belakang.
So my son stepped over the chair and went to the back row.
Right? And did you follow your son?
Apakah Anda ikut dia?
Ya,
Yes.
Where did you go?
Kemana Anda pergi?
turun ke bawah
We went down
and lari ke belakang.
and we ran to the back.
And when you say the back, do you mean back towards the movie theater entrance? Like the front of the theater?
Apakah Anda maksudnya lari ke depan bioskop itu atau ke belakang?
Ke belakang pintu masuk.
We ran to the back.
Like back towards the lobby of the theater?
Jadi menuju ke lobby?
Ya,
Yes.
And what did you see when you ran that way?
Apakah Anda lihat pada waktu lari ke sana?
waktu lari saya lihat ada orang berdiri dengan pegang stick panjang.
I saw a man who was standing there that was holding something long.
What did you do when you saw a man there standing something long, holding something long?
Apakah yang Anda perbuat pada waktu melihat orang itu?
Saya suruh anak saya muter balik.
So I told my son to go back, to turn around.
Did your son listen to you?
Apakah dia ikut?
Iya,
Yes.
Did you follow your son?
Apakah Anda mengikuti dia?
iya,
Yes.
And where did you go after that?
Terus kemana?
ke pintu exit.
To the exit.
And what happened as you were going along the exit? How did you walk?
Jadi pada waktu berlari apa yang terjadi pada waktu menuju ke exit?
Nggak tahu lagi, pokoknya asal lari.
I didn't know. I just ran.
Was there a wall around where you were running?
Ada tembok di sebelah situ.
Ya, ke masuk ke exit.
Yes, there was a wall going toward the exit.
Were you running out close to the edge of that wall?
Jadi Anda berlari dekat-dekat tembok itu?
Ya,
Yes.
And what happened as you were running out? Did anything happen to you?
Apa yang terjadi terhadap Anda sendiri pada waktu lari?
Waktu saya berlari, saya bilang suami saya, kenapa tangan saya begini kayak zombie?
When I was running, I asked my husband, what happened to my arm? It's like a zombie.
And when you say that, what do you mean?
Artinya apa?
Suami saya bilang, lari aja, nggak usah pikirin tangan.
My husband said, just run, don't think about your arm.
Was your arm hurting at the time?
Sakit pada waktu itu?
Panas aja.
It felt warm.
And did it feel weird? Did it feel loose?
Aneh rasanya.
Ya,
Yeah, it felt weird.
And so your husband told you not to worry about your arm.
Jadi dia bilang jangan pikirkan itu,
ya
lari.
dia suruh saya lari, tapi toto saya mau lari, saya terjatuh.
Yes, he told me to run, but while I was running, I fell.
Okay, and why'd you fall?
Kenapa Anda jatuh?
Baru sadar kaki saya ketembak.
I just realized that my foot was shot too.
And so you fell to the ground.
Jadi Anda jatuh ke tanah.
Ya,
Yes.
Could you describe the location in the theater where you fell?
Coba cerita di mana Anda jatuh.
waktu pas mau ke pintunya exit.
Just as I was about to exit,
And you collapsed to the ground.
and Anda jatuh di tanah.
Ya.
Yes.
Now, where's your family at this point in time when you've collapsed to the ground?
Di mana keluarga Anda pada saat itu?
Saya pas di belakang saya, anak saya lagi mau nolong orang.
My husband was in the back of me, and my son was helping another person in front of me.
And where were you able to do at that time?
Dan apakah Anda bisa berbuat pada saat itu?
Saya udah bilang suami saya tinggalin saya sini, lari aja sama anak saya rela mati di sini.
I told my husband, just leave me here. You go run out with my son. I'm ready to die here.
And did your husband do that?
Apakah dia berbuat itu?
Suami saya bilang jangan, kita janji mau pulang ke Indonesia tahun depan.
My husband said, no, we promised we'd go together back to Indonesia next year.
So what did your husband do?
Jadi apa yang dilakukan?
Nah, dia coba nolong saya, ditarik saya belakang begini.
He tried to pull me with my hands up, and he pulled me so I was going backwards.
And were you able to get carried out of the theater that way?
Apakah dia bisa membawa Anda dengan cara itu?
Karena berat, saya ditarik. Ya, bisa.
Yeah, because it felt heavy, but I was pulled that way.
And Your Honor, the record should reflect that the witness and the interpreter both lifted their hands over their head as to indicate that she was getting pulled and dragged backwards.
Yes.
Thank you. So were you able to get out of the theater?
Jadi bisa keluar dari
Keluar dari situ baru dia gendong dari belakang.
yes, just as I was out of the door, then he started to carry me on his back.
Were you able to get out of the theater that way, being carried on your back? His back?
Jadi sesudah itu sudah keluar baru digendong gitu ya.
Iya.
Yes.
And what happened when you got outside?
Apa yang terjadi waktu di luar?
Di luar setelah dicapek gendong saya, ditaruh saya di lantai.
Outside, when he was too tired to carry me any further, he put me on the ground.
And what did you see when you were outside on the ground?
Apa yang Anda lihat pada waktu duduk di lantai?
Saya nggak ngeliat apa-apa karena saya nahan sakit, saya berdoa sama Tuhan, kalau saya mati supaya saya masuk surga.
I didn't do anything. I was too tired. I was laying down. I prayed to God that if I would die there, He would take me to heaven.
And what did you observe your son doing at that time?
Apakah yang Anda lihat anakmu melakukan?
Anak saya sempat ngeliat saya udah begini, terus, Dad, Mama mati ya?
And the son was looking at the mother and saw that she was laying down with her tongue out, and he asked his dad, "Is she dead?"
I talked to my sons, no, I pray to God.
And but I told my son, no, I was praying to God.
Now, were you able to observe anyone else who was injured outside while you were on the sidewalk?
Ada orang lain yang kelihatan di luar yang juga luka.
Anak saya.
Yes, the person that was helped by my son.
So your son actually had helped another person out of the theater.
Jadi dia menolong orang lain keluar dari
Ya,
theater.
saya sempat protes, anak saya nolong orang, saya nggak ditolong.
Yeah, I protested. I said to my son, "You help others. You didn't help your mother."
And what could you observe about the injuries that the person, your son, was helping? How was that person injured?
Lukanya seperti apa dari orang yang ditolong anakmu?
Kakinya sebelah kanan kayaknya parah, nggak bisa jalan.
Yeah, that person had a bad wound on her right leg. I don't know his or her, and couldn't walk.
And could you tell if that person was male or female?
Apakah itu laki perempuan?
Yang luka laki, yang perempuan kurus, makanya nggak bisa jalan sendiri, jadi dibantu anak saya.
Okay, the injured person was a man, but there was another woman next to it. And just an explanation, in Indonesian you don't make a distinction between his or her, so that's why there is no distinction. They don't
In
differ
Indonesian.
in Indonesian. So.
Thank you. So how long were you on the sidewalk outside?
Berapa lama Anda di lantai, di luar?
Nggak ingat sampai datang polisi.
I don't remember until the police came.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1154?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize that document?
Apakah Anda ingat itu dokumen itu?
Ingat.
Yes.
All right, and do you recognize the handwriting on that?
Apakah Anda tahu tulisan siapa itu?
Ya,
Yes.
Whose handwriting is it?
Siapakah yang menulis itu?
dari sini yang datang sama Lisa terus.
The one who wrote this is the one who came together with us home.
So did you meet with myself and some members of my office and an interpreter at your house to draw that diagram?
Excuse me, she answered. I was telling you, and then you wrote it down.
And is it possible that that's actually your handwriting, that I didn't write it down?
Apakah itu tulisanmu atau tulisan orang lain?
Tulisan tanganku ini, namaku.
I wrote my name down there, but that's it.
And did you draw on the diagram where you were seated in the theater?
Apakah Anda itu yang menggambar yang lain-lain?
Iya, ini saya.
Yes, I located the place where we were.
And were you able to demonstrate your exit path from the theater?
Dan Anda juga menunjukkan bagaimana caranya keluar.
Ya, tulisan ini aja bukan saya sama ini.
There are a few notations that are not mine.
But are those notations, do they fairly and accurately represent what you observed in the theater that night on July 20th of 2012?
Apakah tulisan itu benar atau tidak apa yang
Ya,
terjadi?
benar.
Yeah, it's correct.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1154.
Any objection? I think there's a lack of foundation in terms of what else is on the exhibit and how it got there. So I'll let you establish more foundation.
Okay. When I came to your house, did I come to your house before to meet with you to interview you about what
Apakah
happened
dia
to
itu
you?
datang ke rumahmu untuk mewawancara tentang hal ini?
Ya,
Yes.
Okay. And did we ask you to notate on that diagram where you were seated in the theater?
Apakah mereka minta supaya Anda menunjukkan di mana Anda berduduk pada waktu itu?
ya.
Yes.
Menceritakan kejadiannya gimana.
And I was telling them what happened.
And did you do that with the assistance of an Indonesian interpreter?
Apakah itu dilakukan dengan penerjemah Indonesia?
Ya,
Yes.
Is everything on that diagram something either that you wrote or something that you asked the interpreter to write on that diagram?
Jadi seluruhnya itu adalah ada yang Anda tulis atau penerjemah Anda yang nulis.
Overruled. You're asking if everything on the diagram is something she wrote or the interpreter wrote in front of her, right?
Correct, Your Honor, with her observing and her direction.
Right, that doesn't call for speculation. That's calling for her to say whether she observed that. So she can answer the question.
Jadi apakah Anda melihat bahwa yang ditulis itu adalah Anda atau penterjemah Anda?
Penerima saya yang nulis, saya ngasih tahu karena saya nggak bisa nulis bahasa Inggris.
Yeah, my interpreter wrote it down because I cannot write in English, but he did exactly what I asked him.
And does that diagram fairly and accurately represent exactly where you were seated in the theater, where you entered the theater, where you exited the theater, and your exit path?
Jadi apakah itu benar bahwa Anda duduk di sana, caranya Anda masuk, cara Anda keluar, itu semua benar?
Ya, ini semua kejadian benar.
Yes, it all is correct.
With that additional foundation, the objection is overruled and the exhibit is admitted and may be published.
Jadi itu disetujui sama hakim.
Right, Your Honor, may I approach the witness with this pointer in hopes that this will work instead of the laser pointer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, Ms. Paulina, I will approach up here.
Let's give her a microphone.
Okay.
Do we have one of the handheld microphones? We don't have any more microphones. I don't want you to get any ideas that we have like a whole supply of microphones. We keep pulling out microphones.
Here, you can use this.
And
Right,
may the
please.
witness approach her?
Yes, she may, as long as she keeps her voice up and she speaks into the microphone.
Jadi bicara ya, langsung. Ke mikrofon.
Bahasa Inggris.
Bahasa Indonesia
Saja.
saya terjemahkan.
Oke, saya duduk di sini
I sat here
and turun dari sini
and I went down that path
and lari ke sini.
and ran that way.
Terus karena saya lihat ada orang di sana, muter lagi balik ke sini.
Because we turned to the right, and then when I saw another person, we went back.
And could you show the jury where you saw the other person when you went back?
Coba tunjukkan di mana Anda melihat orang lain itu sampai Anda berbalik.
Di ujung sini lah, pintu masuk.
We saw him at that point at the entry.
So the jury can understand, basically, that's a hallway that goes kind of underneath those seats. Is that correct?
Jadi ada perjalanan yang terjadi di bawah kursi-kursi itu, benar?
Ya, lari mestinya di ujung sini, mestinya pintu masuk.
Yeah, underneath there is a pathway out with the entry door.
And does that go back to the lobby of the theater?
Apakah itu kembali ke lobby dari
Ya,
theater?
ini kan pintu masuk.
Yeah, that's the
Jadi
entry.
orangnya berdiri di sini, dia bisa ngelihat orang keluar dari sini, bisa ngelihat orang keluar dari sini.
So that person stood in a corner, so he was able to see the people on the right side and also see all the way down.
And can you describe that person? And when you saw...
Hold on. It doesn't call for speculation and it's also untimely, so overruled on both grounds. Go ahead.
When you saw that person in the hall, how would you describe the person that you saw?
Pada waktu melihat orang itu di hall, coba cerita apa yang Anda lihat.
Ya, dia megang stick panjang kayak nggak tahu itu pistol atau apa, pokoknya bagi saya gelap panjang.
It was dark, but I saw him carrying something that was long. I don't know what it was.
And did anything concern you about that person?
Apakah itu mengkhawatirkan Anda pada waktu itu?
Ya, karena dia sendirian di situ.
Yes, because he was there by himself.
All right, so what did you then do after seeing that person there?
Jadi apa yang Anda lakukan sesudah melihat orang itu?
Saya suruh anak saya putar balik, makanya lari ke sini.
So I told my son to turn back, so we ran back away from him.
And could you use that pointer to show how close to the wall you ran when you ran back out to the other exit?
Coba tunjukkan sampai dekat sampai di mana dari tembok itu Anda lari
Waktu ngeliat orang itu.
waktu melihat orang itu.
Ya sampai sekitar sini, terus saya suruh lari ke sini.
Yes, I ran down.
And could you use that pointer to describe where it was that you collapsed?
Di mana Anda jatuh? Kasih unjuk tempatnya.
Pas di sini.
Right there.
All right, and could you then use the laser pointer to show how you exited the theater?
Jadi tunjukkan bagaimana Anda bisa keluar.
Oh, suami saya tarik saya ke sini.
So my husband and I went out that door.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can take your seat again. Thank you. So after you were outside the theater and you were on the sidewalk, what happened? Did any emergency personnel come to take you to get some help?
Jadi sesudah keluar dan tidur di lantai itu, apakah ada orang lain yang datang?
Itu polisi.
Yeah, the police.
Dia bilang angkat tangan.
He told us to hold our hands up.
Saya bilang saya nggak peduli, mau tembak lagi silakan.
I said, I don't care. If you want to shoot me again, shoot me.
What did the police do after you did that?
Apakah yang polisi lakukan sesudah Anda melihat itu?
Karena dilihat saya berdarah, terus saya tergeletak, dibilang korban.
So he saw me in blood, so then he realized I was a victim.
And what did he do after that?
Apakah dia lakukan sesudah itu?
Dia bilang suruh tunggu, dia ngecek ke dalam.
So he said to wait, and he went inside.
Right? And was anyone ever able to come help you?
Apakah ada orang lain yang menolong Anda?
Lama datang polisi lagi mau nolong.
And not long thereafter, there was more police that came to help.
All right. And did someone take you in their police car?
Ada orang yang membawa Anda?
Ya, masuk mobil polisi.
Yeah, he carried me into his police car.
And did your family come with you?
Apakah keluarga juga ikut?
Iya.
Yes.
Where did you go?
Kemana?
Saya udah nggak tahu lagi karena sakit. Tahan
I,
sakit.
I don't know where because I was hurting.
Did you go to a hospital?
Pergi ke rumah sakit.
Setelah di rumah sakit baru saya tahu itu di rumah sakit.
After I was in the hospital, did I realize I was in a hospital.
And what injuries did you sustain?
Jadi lukanya apa aja?
Tangan kiri saya 2 peluru.
There were 2 bullets in my left arm
Dan kaki 1.
and 1 bullet in my leg.
And what leg?
Yang mana?
Kiri.
Left leg.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2963, 4592, 4596, 4598, and 4599.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jadi ada 4 bukti.
All right, Ms. Paulina, if you could please tell me the number that's on the first photograph that I showed you, and tell me if you recognize that photograph.
Coba kasih tahu nomor apa yang di bukti pertama itu, dan apakah Anda tahu itu foto tentang siapa?
Iya, ini foto saya, nomornya 2963.
This is my picture. The number is 29 what?
63.
Oh, 63.
And what does that picture show?
Apakah yang ditunjukkan?
Ini kayaknya belum dia papain, belum masih Cuma diobatin aja.
That is me, but I had not received treatment at that time.
And is it just a picture of you, or does it depict any injuries?
Apakah itu mempertunjukkan luka-lukamu?
Udah diperban.
Yeah, they had dressed it. I mean, they put proper covering on it and gave me a little bit of medicine.
All right, and if you could tell us about and does that fairly and accurately represent what you look like after the shooting on July 20th of 2012?
Apakah itu menunjukkan Anda benar-benar itu Anda?
Iya.
Yes.
Okay. If you could tell us about the next number of the photograph?
Nomornya apa?
4592.
4592.
All right, and what does that photograph depict?
Apa yang terlihat di
Ini
situ?
operasi kedua.
This is my second operation.
All right, and what does it show?
Apakah yang ditunjukkan
Dia ngeluarin
pelurunya?
bukan
Berapa?
pinnya satu.
They were taking out a pin.
From what body part?
Dari mana? From my arm.
And your right arm or your left arm?
Tangan kiri, tangan kanan.
Kiri.
Left.
And did that fairly and accurately represent where your injuries look
Apakah
like
itu
after the
benar-benar
shooting?
menunjukkan apa yang terjadi?
Iya.
Yes.
And what's the next photograph number?
Berikutnya apa? Nomornya?
4596.
4596.
All right, and what does that picture show?
Apa yang ditunjukkan?
Kaki saya kena tembak.
My leg with a bullet wound.
And which leg?
Ya, kaki yang mana?
Kiri.
My left leg.
Does it fairly and accurately represent what your leg looked like after the shooting on July 20th of
Apakah
2012?
itu foto akurat dan benar?
Iya.
Yes.
You could tell us about the next photograph?
Berikutnya
Ini
nomornya
4598.
4598.
What does that photograph show?
Apa yang ditunjukkan di situ?
Operasi pertama, habis operasi pertama.
That's after my first operation.
And what is that picture showing?
Apa yang ditunjukkan di situ?
Ya ditunjukin kalau saya sudah operasi
It just shows that I had an operation
sama kembaran saya.
On what part? Body part?
on di tangan
Di
mana?
tangan kiri.
On my left arm.
And what about the next photograph?
Yang berikutnya apa?
4599.
4599.
What does that photograph show?
Apa yang ditunjukkan di situ?
Ini tangan kiri saya yang kena tembak 2 tembakan.
That showed my left arm after it had been shot twice.
Sebelum dia papain dokter.
Before the doctor did anything.
Does that fairly and accurately represent what your injuries look like after the shooting on July 20th of 2012?
Apa itu benar-benar menunjukkan apa luka Anda?
Iya.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2963, 4592, 4596, 4598, 4599.
Any objection?
Objection to 2963 and 4598. No further objection to the other three.
Okay, those exhibits are admitted and may be published.
All right, if I could please first have 2963. All right, Ms. Paulina, if you could please describe for the jury what this picture shows.
Coba tunjukkan apa yang ditunjukkan foto itu.
Iya, tangan kiri saya diobati.
So my left arm was medicated.
If I could please have 4592.
Operasi kedua.
All right, and what does that photograph depict?
This is the second operation.
And what body part is that again?
Tangan.
Iya, tangan kiri.
This is my left arm.
All right, and if I could please have 4596.
Kaki kiri saya.
You could describe for the jury what that photograph shows.
This is my left leg.
And if I could please have 4598. Please describe for the jury what that photograph shows.
Operasi pertama.
This is right after the first operation.
And again, what body part is that?
Di tangan kiri,
Tangan kiri.
on my left arm.
Please have 4599. Please describe for the jury what that photograph shows.
Coba tunjukkan apa yang ini.
Nah ini waktu pertama kena tembak belum diapa-apain dokter.
It's the photo after I was shot where the doctor had not done anything.
I have no further questions at this time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any questions, Ms. Spengler? No questions. And it doesn't appear like the jury has any questions. May this witness be released from her subpoena, Ms. Tish-McGuire?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any objection? No. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
Get the microphone back from him, please. Thank you. Members of the jury, we've been at this for a while, so let's go ahead and take our afternoon break. Let's take 20 minutes. Please keep all of my admonitions in mind and follow all of them during the break. But otherwise, enjoy the break. I'll see you back here in 20 minutes.
Please rise.
Cheryl. The record should reflect that we are now outside the presence of the jury. Everyone may be seated. Let me just follow up on a couple of the objections that I ruled on. With respect to the objection to a question that Ms. Tish-McGuire asked, I think it was of Mr. Mora. The question was, what kind of surgery did your wife have to have? And there was an objection as to hearsay that I sustained, and the response was that this was a statement for purposes of medical diagnosis or treatment. That hearsay exception appears at Rule 803, subsection 4, or 8034, and that refers to statements that are made for purposes of medical diagnosis or treatment and describing medical history or past or present symptoms, pain, or sensations, or the inception or general character of the cause or external source thereof, insofar as reasonably pertinent to diagnosis or treatment. And this was a question about what Mr. Mora's wife had said to him, as I understood it, about what kind of surgery his wife had to have, or what someone else said to him. So it wasn't a statement being made by someone to a medical person, to a doctor, for purposes of diagnosis or treatment. It was a statement, out-of-court statement, that was apparently made to Mr. Mora about his wife's medical condition. So that exception doesn't apply. That's why I sustain the objection. There was an objection to speculation with respect to the last witness by Ms. Spengler that I overruled, and the objection came after the witness said the following. She said the person stood in the corner, so he was able to see the people on the right side and also see all the way down. I took that answer to mean that based on the location of the person in that location would have been able to see anybody who was on the right side, or and also was able to see anybody all the way down. So the word was able to see, or the term was able to see, and so I understood it as ability to observe based on the location, not speculation about whether the person actually saw that or whether the person did something because by doing that he was then allowed to see certain things or in certain areas. And then lastly, there were a couple of objections during Mr. Mora's testimony that I sustained on relevance grounds. One was related to whether he was able to keep his family together at the hospital. The other one was whether both of his family members stayed at the same room or whether they were transferred. And I think with respect to the latter question, I added that it was also cumulative. Frankly, they are both relevant to some extent. They have some marginal relevance, but the reason why I sustained the objection is both of those areas had been covered already. And so under 403, neither question was appropriate. And so really, I should have sustained them under 403, Rule 403, and that is cumulative. The marginal relevance was, or the marginal probative value was substantially outweighed by the fact that this was cumulative. So I've just been handed a note that one of the jurors wants to speak to us, Juror 155. So what we'll do is we'll take a break, and then we'll see what the juror has to say. All right? Enjoy your break, everyone. The court will be in recess. Thank you.
Please rise.